Hey, I'm in a different spot. I don't play the keyboard. That's my son's. I am not musical. And that actually is funny because I'm actually probably going to talk a lot about music. So it's a nice little analogy. And what I want to talk to you, I titled it Layne, Staley, and David Foster Wallace. I wanted to title it Down in a Hole in River of Deceit because those two songs sing to me very tragically. You know, but music is like food and food is like art. And, you know, like, what do I mean by music is like food, food is like art? Well, I want us all to make that connection with other areas of our lives, whether it's relationships, friends, cars, material things, non material things, drinks, choices, religions, right? Um, it's that, you know, we all have different tastes, we all have different likes, and we also interpret them differently. There are certain foods and there's certain things that are out there, certain music that we interpret differently. And while some things need to be refined, right? So like your palate needs to be refined, let's say. Well, maybe your musical palate, maybe your social palate needs to be refined in terms of are you accepting of people and are you responding correctly? And do you need to refine your judgment? Um, and that's we have to understand too. Like when I say these things, yeah, I'm not like there's no level of piety. I have to, cast less judgment. So again, so we have these different interpretations. Um, we need to refine those, or what a lot of adults can do, and teachers and coaches can do, is they can give younger set a different perspective. Changing the perspective, a good friend can do that to another friend. You can say something the way that you feel or what you believe, and your friend can be like, no, that's not true. Did you ever kind of walk a mile in their moccasins, or whatever the perspective may be? So, refining, changing perspective. But we do, okay. Um, you know, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, I wrote it down. I care not whether I'm right or wrong. See, that's not like in this day and age where everyone's doing what they want and want their freedom and all that. No, I don't care because if you think about it, right, whether I'm right or I'm wrong, I don't care because we often must have the freedom to view things the way we choose. See, if I want to listen to something in my car that I like, I have to have that freedom. I have to have that sort of freedom in my life to make me feel alive and to make me feel kind of connected. I don't need someone making fun of me. I don't need someone casting judgment or I hate that song. Or, it could go the other way that you could connect with someone through a song. And that happens more often than not. There's stadiums full of people at one group's concert, correct? Um, Millions of people read the same book. That's why they're on the bestsellers list. So again, everything has the ability to be looked at in two, three, four, or a multitude of ways. So don't think that anything is like a drop of the mic. But you have to have some sort of freedom and autonomy to think and choose. Yeah, everyone thinks, oh, you eat this and you're so healthy and da da da. I'm really not. I love Oreos and milk. They're phenomenal. And the beautiful thing about Oreos is they don't have any cholesterol. And for a guy who has heredity issues with cholesterol and things in high cholesterol, it's nice to have a nice treat and not impact my cholesterol. So that is, one of those freedoms. We want to feel free to eat. We don't want to be hampered by, no, 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 and bad, bad, bad. We don't want that with art. We like to interpret things now. One of my most famous paintings that because I just feel very fortunate that I got to see it is Guernica. And so that is a tragic interpretation of something that Francisco Franco did to the people in País de Vasco, but the courage it took Picasso to paint is what I admire in that painting. So I choose to interpret that the way that I want to. I see it the way that I want to, and that's another thing. But I want to move on to, you know, the many people that have studied, put it into their curriculums at prestigious universities like Harvard. Um, they have put David Foster Wallace, they have dissected David Foster Wallace in his famed speech, "This is water." Um, and I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to dissect David Foster Wallace. I am not going to talk about "This is water," um, because there's so many people out there that would say I'm not smart enough. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. I'm not smart enough. But I do pose this question: if you've ever listened to that speech, is the speech more tragic now after his own death? That was only like maybe 2 or 3 years after that speech. Listen to the speech and then know it, it's ugh, way more impactful. And tell me this too: when you listen to that speech, do you listen to it with a little bit more emotion? Does that speech seem like, God damn, he's saying all these things and he's telling them it's not just you, it's about me. There's a lot of this about me, how I need to be. I'm not telling you how to be, I'm not telling you how to think, it's how I need to think, it's how I need to. And could he not take his own advice? Could he not learn from what he was telling others to be? I don't know. I listened to that speech and it's a little more sad to me. It's a lot more sad to me. And I do. I because I know his history. I listen to it with a lot of. I listen to it with a lot of emotion. Now there's two different songs, right, by two different bands, but it's sung by the same lead singer. And that's Layne Staley, and that's why entitled. I liked Alice in Chains. I still listen to Alice in Chains. Um, I have I have the song River of Deceit on one of my playlists, and that's from Mad Season. That was a project, kind of a spin-off that he did with other artists. Um, so it's Down in a Hole by Alice in Chains. Uh, that's Layne Staley with Jerry Cantrell and others, and then the other song is River of Deceit by Mad Season. Um, and these two songs have been, you know, whatever it's called, like fandom or whatever. That's not it. It's just when I listen to Down in a Hole, when I listen to River of Deceit, um, the big theme that they dissect first is my pain is self chosen, and that's one of the lines in the song. Um, and that's in River of Deceit, and we do know oftentimes that the biggest problems in our lives are created by us. I think that's the easiest theme to pick out, right? But he then goes on to say the river of deceit pulls down. Yeah, the only direction we flow is down. And the river of deceit, in my opinion, is what I talk to my athletes about finding that self truth. See, when an alcoholic gets sober, they never, well, I can't say never, right? Like I said, there's always different outcomes. Alcoholics almost always get sober when they choose to, not when someone else wants them to. Very, very rare do alcoholics, drug addicts, or anybody get better when someone else is choosing it or forcing it on them. Someone is only going to get better if they themselves choose. Is they themselves redundant? Is it? I don't know what that is, but I'm not here to teach an English class. So, the river of deceit, when you're lying to yourself, you're lying to others, you are not living your true life. It only is going to pull you down, right? So, I don't need to go into that. It's very clear cut. The river of deceit flows down. The only direction we flow is down when we have that. But when you have that internal truth that you are not being deceitful to yourself, that spills outward in a beneficial way of truth to others and truth to society and truth to community. Um, so in down in a hole, um, they talk about you know well, what is it? How is it? Is it someone looking at themselves from above, seeing themselves at their funeral? I decorate my grave and all that sort of stuff. And I think that he does talk about the road of excess. not necessarily leading to the palace of wisdom. And so what he says, I've eaten the sun, so my tongue has been burned of the taste. He then goes on to say, I have been guilty of kicking myself in the teeth. Then he goes on and sings, I will speak no more of my feelings beneath. Now, people are going to say this is about a breakup or anything like that. I have been guilty of kicking myself in the teeth. It goes back to rivers of deceit, right? My pain is self chosen. Okay. The river of deceit, the only direction it pulls us down. And then he says, I will speak no more of my feelings beneath. Now, whether that's because of a breakup that Jerry Cantrell had or however, but however anyone's going to break it up, doesn't matter. But therein lies one of the biggest issues. Not speaking the feelings beneath. We often don't have the courage. We don't feel safe. We don't feel strong enough to speak of our feelings that lie beneath. And so, you know, David Foster Wallace is known to have had depression. Layne Staley was a heroin addict. And so when we look at what the point of this is listen to these songs however you want. The way that I listen to This Is Water, Down in a Hole, River of Deceit is they are tragic tales on what to steer away from. And so for me, I don't need to experience certain things on my own. I can see the tragic experience of others to teach me how not to be. And if one thing can come of either of their deaths, is that one, two, three, four, five of us will not go down the path that they went down because they will not die in vain. They left beautiful art behind, one in written word, one in terms of music. Their legacy lives on, and then an unwavering part of their legacy is that we should learn how to steer clear of self deceit, excess, where you've eaten the sun, so your tongue has been burned of the taste. Don't kick yourself in the teeth. Find someone and experience things with people and go and do things where you're open and you can get your feelings from beneath out so they don't stay buried and just fester there and ruminate and ruin the rest of your life. Please reach out, call me, talk to me because there are so many more things here. Down in the whole river of deceit, and this is water. Don't speak to me free of emotion. When I listen to Down in the Hole, I just think of, man, why do we have to wander this earth alone sometimes? Why do we have to be surrounded by so many people with all the fame and all that they have? Why do they have to feel so alone, so isolated, so unconnected? If you're ever feeling unconnected or isolated, call me. I want to connect with you. I've been there. I've needed other people. You don't get to points in your life. You don't get to 45 years old like I am without love, care, help, understanding, forgiveness of others. It just doesn't happen. So, anyway, that is my message. And I'm sure I left a ton out, but I don't want to ramble. Enjoy your Sunday evening. Don't worry about Sunday neuroses. Make sure your Sundays are fun right into the end.